It's live now.
Yeah.
Okay,
Right.
here we go. Here we go. So, I just want to introduce Ingrid. She's a immigration attorney or lawyer in Orlando, Florida, and she's agreed to join us today to help us understand some of the ins and outs of immigrating to the United States. And we had another guest planned to join us, but I don't think he's going to. I'll check my WhatsApp, but he's still working. He's a guy that was in English Brazil, learned his English, and now he lives in Canada. And he works in a company kind of like Home Depot or Lowe's or something like that as a salesperson. So his English had to be pretty good to get to that place and to work there. So um, kudos to English Brazil. Okay, so Ingrid, we would like to hear from you in regards to immigrating to the United States. And I talked to you briefly before our meeting tonight about some of the ideas that I thought would be interesting. But I know that you are the professional, you have a presentation. And so, Leo, is it possible for her to share her screen? Is that okay? Do you have to liberate that or is it automatic? Because in Zoom, you have to authorize it, but I don't know about here in this particular platform.
It would be better to send me the file.
Oh, it's better? Because I can see a button here that says share.
It does have a button here that says share. I can
Yeah.
try doing it that way.
Would you like to start with
Yeah.
sharing a document?
Sure. Let me share my screen. Give me
Yeah,
one
try it and see what happens.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me share my screen with you.
Mhm.
And there you go. I think it will work. Can you see my screen?
I can't.
I have to.
You have to authorize it? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, cool.
Let me know when it's good to go.
I think we
Yeah.
can see what you're seeing. You're
Okay.
in a window called Common Visa Options.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
So I do a lot of consultations with clients that are looking for immigration options. And basically, these consultations go over the different options to live and work in the United States. These are the most common visa options. I always tell people that immigration is like alphabet soup. There are visas that range from A to Z, and not every attorney works with every type of visa. Most attorneys hyper specialize on certain immigration types. And these are the most common visas that I work with. And there's some others here too that I'll touch upon for people of visas that I do. So here in this document, this is common visa options to work and live in the United States. A lot of people want to come to the United States to live and work, right?
Mhm.
So there are two big options. You have immigrant visas, which lead to green cards and permanent residencies and eventually citizenship in the United States. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yep.
And then there are non-immigrant visa options, which are temporary visas that let a person come live and work in the United States for a temporary period of time. These can be renewed. They don't necessarily lead to a permanent residence, which is why they're non-immigrant. They're things that need to be renewed. So there are a variety of those types of visas as well, and they all depend on the type of job that you're coming to do. So it's very employment specific if you're coming to live and work in the United States based on employment. Now, the most common immigration option are green cards through family, right? So here, option number one is if you have a U.S. citizen, family member, that U.S. citizen can petition for a green card for their spouses, their parents, their children who are under 21 years old, their unmarried children who are over 21 years old, and their married children who are over 21 years old, and also their siblings.
Oh, siblings, just to let everybody know, that's your brothers and sisters.
Mm-hmm. So a U.S. citizen has many immigration benefits as they can petition all these people. Now, I'm going to sneeze. I'm sorry. I'm trying not to, but if I sneeze, I'm sorry. If you
I have a cold, you have a cold, everybody has a cold.
I just felt something, but it went away.
Okay.
So that's if you have a family member who's a U.S. citizen. They can petition you if you're their spouse, parent, child, or sibling. If you have a family member who's a green card holder in the United States, not a U.S. citizen, but a lawful permanent resident, that person can petition their spouse, their children under 21 years old, and their unmarried children over 21 years old. Green card holders cannot petition married adult children, and they cannot petition their parents. So there's a benefit to eventually becoming a U.S. citizen, is that U.S. citizens can petition more family members. Now, if these people that you are petitioning, or that a U.S. citizen is petitioned, is married or has eligible children, those family members can join the intending immigrant to the United States. So let's say you're petitioning your let's say married, you're married, or let's say it's an unmarried child over 21 years old, and that child has a dependent, like a child, like, you know, a minor child. That minor child can come to the United States. There are some exceptions to that. Not everybody can immigrate at the same time, but there are many dependents that can immigrate together with the foreign national that a U.S. citizen is petitioning. So that's the family-based categories. And within these categories, there are many different processes that a person will need to go through to eventually become a U.S. citizen. So, you know, that's a more deep conversation, but that is option number one, is immigration through family. So that's one of the biggest categories, and most immigration attorneys do family immigration. And it's how a lot of people immigrate to the United States. Then, if you don't have a family member, there's immigration options through employment. So the different immigration options through employment, we call them the EBs. There's EB 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I don't have 5 here because I put 5 here under investors, but I'll explain what that means. And then there's also, oops, can you see? Okay, there. And there's also this non-immigrant visa that we put here called the TN, and I'll explain a little bit more what this is. It could eventually lead to a green card, but it's one of the options. So let me just go through how it generally works. Basically, for employment-based options, a person needs an employer to sponsor them. Just like here, you need a U.S. citizen to sponsor you or to petition you. Here, you need a U.S. employer to petition you. Not everybody has a U.S. employer to employ them in the United States, because that U.S. employer has to be willing and open to do the whole process for you. That's hard. It's not like you can come here with a green card and then find work under these categories that require U.S. employer, because here the U.S. employer is the one who's starting the process for you. So you're just the beneficiary. You're just you're benefiting from what they're doing for you. So, and then there's other types of visas or other types of petitions that are self-petitions. These do not need employers. So this means that a foreign national that has a certain type of ability or experience or, a know-how. I keep coming in and out, and I'm not sure if you can hear me. But anyway, this category, EB1 and EB2, they are considered the number 1 and number 2 preference categories, which means that these people, if you have what's called an extraordinary ability, you are 1%, top 1% in your profession, because maybe you won an international prize like a Nobel Peace Prize, a Pulitzer, an Oscar, an Olympic medal. Or maybe you just have what's called extraordinary ability in your field. Maybe you are an extraordinary, you have extraordinary abilities in engineering, or maybe in the mathematics, or maybe in any other scientific field, or in the arts, or anything like that. There's 10 total criteria. If you meet 3 of those criteria, you may be eligible for extraordinary ability. I'll give you an example of this one. I just submitted one for someone. I won't say the country, because if I say the country, you'll be able to Google him. But he is a top space engineer. He runs the equivalent of NASA in the United States. He runs that agency in his country. So only a very few amount of people in the world can reach his level of expertise and ability. So, he's launching satellites, and he's building space programs, and he's working with MIT and NASA and all of that, and doing, incredible projects. So very few people are able to achieve that. So that's a really good category, because you can self-petition, you can do your own self-petition without an employer.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really interesting too, like the types of people that do these. They're very accomplished people, very impressive resumes. EB2, if you apply for an EB2, you're kind of like the next set of very qualified professionals. These are professionals that have advanced degrees, what immigration considers to be a master's degree or the equivalent. Equivalent can be a bachelor's degree plus 5 years of experience is considered an advanced degree professional. For an EB2, an employer can petition you for an EB2. Let's say you're a doctor and you have a master's degree, or an MD, or whatever it is that doctors have after you go to medical school. You have an advanced degree. A hospital or an organization can petition for you under the EB2, but people can also self-petition under the EB2 if they request a national interest waiver, which is a NIW we call. So EB2 NIWs are for people with exceptional abilities or advanced degrees, and they are self-petitioning because they have a proposal to the United States that's in a national interest. So it's in a national interest of the United States to do away with you having to have an employer. So I do a lot of these for engineers, even business people. For entrepreneurs is a good option because it's impractical for an entrepreneur to get a job offer. If you're an entrepreneur, you're your own employer. So, you're not doing this. So I do a lot of these. I did one for a metallurgical engineer who's a metals engineer. And, he does like 20% of the metal that comes out of South America, the quality assurance is done through him. So he's somebody that, is very well known in the industry. He impacts the industry. He's going to benefit the American steel industry because he's a very skilled and very knowledgeable, accomplished, and recognized metallurgical engineer. Mm-hmm. So that's for those type of people. And there's 6 criteria. If you meet 3 out of the 6 criteria, you may be able to qualify for this type of visa. And the way that we work for EB1 and EB2s is when people are interested in these, they'll usually send me an email or they'll contact my office and they say, I want to know if I qualify for an EB1 or EB2. And what we do is we'll request their resume so we can look at their credentials and their work experience, how long they've been working and everything like that. And then we send them a questionnaire where they're going to fill out a bunch of questions, answer a bunch of questions that are a little bit more in depth. And then either me or another attorney in the office will do a complimentary pre-analysis to see if they meet the minimum criteria. If they meet the minimum requirements, then we invite them for an in-depth consultation where we talk about the types of evidence that they have to present in their case and what it is that they want to do in the United States, and talk about why that is important, because it's going to help us strategize the process, right? So that initial consultation is really important because we're going to spend an hour in depth talking about that person's professional background, what they want to do in the United States, the type of evidence they have, and things like that, and answering their questions and stuff like that. So for people who have employers, then we have to talk directly to their employers. A lot of people call us and they ask, hey, I want to immigrate. I heard about the EB3. Do you have employers that sponsor me? The answer is no. I don't have, most lawyers, most companies, most firms don't have employers, like a book of employers with, who are ready, willing, and able to sponsor. There are a lot of companies that offer these services, but I'm very reluctant of those companies. I've had some people come to my office saying that they spent thousands of dollars in this EB3 program, and now they're waiting for their visa. I don't know. It's just sketchy. The reason why I find it very sketchy is because the law requires that the employer pays for the immigration, for the process, for some of the fees of this process, which is with the Department of Labor. So the idea of the law is that you're not buying your green card. You're not getting an agreement with an employer. The employer really has to want to do this for you. EB4, so EB3 is for people that have bachelor's degree or people who are, whose jobs don't require a degree. So I've done this for chefs, for cooks at restaurants. I've done this for engineers who only have a bachelor's degree. I've done this for warehouse workers. So you get an idea of the types of people that you can petition. It's an employer. If the employer needs a job opening and they want to sponsor the foreign national for the job, then we get that done. EB4s for religious workers. They're not that common. This is a church wanting to sponsor a person, to be a pastor or work in a ministry or things like that. TN, this visa is only for people with Canadian and Mexican citizenship. However, many Brazilians, and I've been getting quite a few Brazilian clients, also have Canadian. Can you hear me?
Oh yeah. But I'm saying I'm perking my ear to your conversation because you said Brazilian, so maybe.
So a lot of Brazilians have Canadian citizenship as well, and a lot of them want to come to the United States. So TN is a really good visa option, and for Canadians, it's very easy. All you have to do is get a job offer in the United States and show up at the border with your job offer, and you get a TN stamp on your passport. If you are in the United States, and the process is a bit more complicated, so TNs are really nice if you have a job offer. You just need a job offer, and it's very easy to get. And now with the with the shortage of employees in the United States, if a Brazilian has a Canadian citizenship, now is a time to go after that TN status. And then we have humanitarian options. This is the other, big category. These are the things that you hear on the news, like people asking for asylums and things like that, DACA. So these are more humanitarian options that are to protect people from persecution. So asylum applicants usually are fleeing persecution based on race, nationality, political opinion, religion, sexual orientation, or they're a member of a particular social group like LGBT or groups like that, and that they are experiencing persecution in their country and their government is not protecting them. So the United States believes that everybody is equal and everybody can pursue happiness here. So there are asylum. Asylum is a humanitarian waive or a humanitarian request that people can apply for. And it is discretionary. Obviously, not everybody that applies for asylum is going to get it. But if you get it because you really cannot go back to your country because you fear that you may, you're fearing for your life, then eventually you can become a green card. So we do a lot of asylums too. Asylum is very common for people from Venezuela. Venezuela is going through a lot in their country. So, I have some Brazilian clients too that are requesting asylum, but it's tough depending on the situation. VAWA is something that stands for Violence Against Women Act. It's a law that was enacted to protect victims of domestic violence. This is here as a humanitarian option, but it's kind of also a family option. This is when a foreign national is a victim of abuse by a U.S. citizen or a green card holder. So if you're Brazilian and you have a spouse in the United States, and that person, you need that person to request your green card for you, to petition you for a green card. The VAWA lets you do this yourself because nobody should be dealing with domestic violence and abuse, right? So this says that you as a victim, because you have that relationship, you can petition yourself because you suffered abuse and your abuser is never going to know. So this protects you from abuse and domestic violence and things like that. DACA, parole, TPS, these are temporary things that are renewables. DACA is for childhood arrivals that came to the United States a long time ago. It would not apply to anyone today, really. All we're doing right now mostly is DACA renewals, but that comes far and few in between because this program is something that, there's a lot of changes in this program. Temporary humanitarian parole is something that, let's say you need to come to the United States for an emergency and you cannot get a visa, then you can apply for humanitarian parole for a specific purpose. I did one of these for a client who was waiting for her immigrant visa in Brazil, but her husband suffered a brain aneurysm and she needed a parole because she couldn't get a visa to come. And we were able to parole her in the United States so she could be with her husband. And then eventually her case was approved and she was able to go back and get her visa and then get her green card. TPS is temporary protected status. This is only designated for countries who are, that are going through, a lot of devastation, like Haiti. Brazil is not one of them. That's all I have to say about that.
Ukraine.
So, Ukraine, Venezuela, I think Sudan. So it's depends on what's going on with the country. If there's a natural disaster or a humanitarian crisis, the government can extend temporary protected status to these people and keep them here, and they don't have to go back. So then these are investor options. Investor options are really nice because if you don't have family, or maybe you don't have, you're not EB1 or EB2, you don't think, there are investment options, but obviously investment means money, right? So if you have the money, you can do it. So let's talk about the EB5 because this is an employment-based option, but it's for investors. And ignore these numbers here because these numbers have changed, and this program is being renewed with Congress. So this is subject to change, but this is something that is possible. So EB5, if you have a lot of money and you can open a company in the United States and create 10 direct employments, 10 jobs, 10 new jobs. And in your investment, at least when this program was open, the investment had to be at least $1 million. Then you can get a green card. Or so that's called the EB5 direct. So you invest in whatever company you want, you open up your own company, and you create 10 jobs, you can get a green card that way. Or you can invest in what's called a regional center, which is a lesser investment, but you're not in control of that regional center. It's like a pool. A regional center is like a hotel that needs a pool of investors. They open up a portion of that investment to foreign nationals to do regional centers. And then, maybe there's like 3 or 4 slots for investors, foreign investors, and they each invest $500,000 at the time. I think this amount is going to go up to $725,000. And then you can get a green card that way through the regional center. That requires a lot of money, and it means parking your money there for a long time. So if you have a lot of money laying around and you want a green card, this could be an option. And then this is something that I do a lot for Brazilians because a lot of Brazilians qualify for E2 visas. E2 visas are really nice because they allow you to live and work in the United States in your own company. However, the E2, let me just make sure that this shows. Okay, the E2 requires the Brazilian national to have dual citizenship with a treaty country. And usually that's Italy or Spain. A lot of Brazilians have Italian nationality or Spanish nationality. France, there's many countries in Europe that qualify. Portugal is not one of them. France, Italy, Mexico, Colombia. Argentina. So if you're Brazilian and you have double nationality from one of these countries, you may qualify for the E2 visa. The E2 visa is really nice because your spouse and your kids under 21 can come to the US with you. They can study in schools, your spouse can work, and it can be renewed indefinitely, except for your kids when they turn 21. But as far as for you and your spouse, you can live here forever with your company. So the idea is you're coming to open up an enterprise, open a business, create a few jobs, maybe 2 or 3 jobs in a span of 5 years. And in exchange for that, the US gives you this visa called an E2, so you can come and work your business. So I just did an E2 for a Brazilian, Italian, a guy with Italian nationality, a Brazilian with Italian nationality. And he bought a truck, like an 18-wheeler truck. And that's his business. He subcontracts his truck to a driver, and they do deliveries all over the country, and that truck is running nonstop. So he is the broker of the truck. So he works with the freight companies, and he gets the shipments all around the country.
Very interesting.
Yeah, I've done E2s. I have one right now for a Brazilian Spanish national. It's an air conditioning company. I've done for a cleaning company. I've done one recently for a Brazilian Italian national. He sells sleep apnea and medical gases because that's what he did in Brazil. So he's doing that here. So he opened up a company. He leased an office and he buys the equipment and he sells to the hospitals, clinics, and things like that. So for E2, it's really nice because it's very flexible. You can offer services, or you can sell products. You can buy an existing business, or you can start up your own business. There's no minimum amount that you have to invest in the US economy. It depends on the type of business that you're going to run. So for example, if you want to open up a restaurant, $30,000 is not going to work unless you're going to go to the middle of the country where that $30,000 will get you very far. If you're in Orlando or New York, for example, you're going to need a lot more money to open up that restaurant. So it just depends on where you are, the type of business you want to be. You do have to show that your money's at risk, but if you meet all the legal requirements, really, this is a great visa to get. The other option for Brazilians that does not require treaty or having the double nationality is an L1. L1 is great for people who are minority owners or executives in multinational companies in Brazil. And that multinational company in Brazil is opening up a subsidiary here in the United States and wants to transfer you, the manager, the executive, or the minority owner, to the US to open and run the US enterprise. So again, all these, you have to think about the employment that this is going to create. So this, requires a few more jobs that you're creating because you're going to be an executive, you're going to be a manager, you're going to be overseeing more people. And then this one here is very nice because it is dual intent. If you're L1, if you're able, if you come to the United States, the L1 visa at first is 1 year, but then you renew. And then the company can petition for your green card under one of the subcategories of the EB1, which is the EB1C. So the company later on can petition you for your green card. That's why it's called dual intent. First, you come in with non-immigrant, you have to renew, and then it can lead into a green card. So it's a nice option for people that are executives or managers or own companies in Brazil, and they want to come to the United States. How the company in Brazil needs to stay open. There's a lot of legal requirements. So talking to an attorney about any one of these options really is very, very important because every case requires a very detailed, individualized analysis of the facts to make sure that you are applying for the benefit that you qualify for. So these are the most common immigration options. And then there are a bunch of other non-immigrant visas. It just all depends on the type of work you're going to do, like H-1Bs, if you're coming to do a job that requires a bachelor's degree, or, there's other types of visas for agricultural worker and things like that, which I don't do. But there's many, many different options. These are the most common options and the ones that people seek the most, especially the E2s and the EB2s and EB1s.
Very good. Very good information. Very good. So as far as documentation is concerned, I heard you talk about possibly another citizenship with another country like Italy or Argentina, Spain. So you would need to show that visa from that country or your passport from that country, probably, along with your petition, right? Along with your request to receive the visa.
Right. So for the E2, you need to prove that you have the nationality from that country. So usually what we do is just show the passport. The passport is enough.
Okay.
Or if you're born in Italy, then you could just use your birth certificate. But the passport is what we usually use.
Okay. Very good. And then if I wanted to talk to you about getting a visa, one of these visas, I guess every different type of visa is going to have a different time frame from the time you start your process until the time it's basically finished. I mean, everybody's different. Every visa is different. So would you say that it's probably safe to say that you could probably get a visa within a year from the time you start until the time it's finished? Would that be a reasonable amount of time?
It depends. I would say if a person is in the United States, it very much depends on the category of visa that they're looking for. Like if they are a spouse of a U.S. citizen, those cases go faster. If they're in the United States, if they're a parent or a minor child, If they are abroad, then the visa can take longer. And that's just because the processing times are long. And
Mhm.
because the pandemic, the embassies closed and there's huge backlogs and the embassies are understaffed and all of that. So there's so many people that whose applications and their appointments were canceled at the embassy that now the embassies are trying to catch up. So it probably take longer, quite honestly. The
Okay.
petition maybe 9 months, a year, but then the immigrant visa process can take longer just because the embassy and the backlogs.
So is it safe to say that if I'm a Brazilian and I want to get a visa for the United States, I would go through the consulate or the embassy here in Brazil?
It depends. So it depends on what you're applying for. So let's say if
Okay.
you're just applying for a tourist visa, you just apply online, and then if you're renewing a visa, what they're doing right now to help people with the backlogs is waiving the requirement of people having interviews again. So it's possible that if you just want a tourist visa to come visit the United States and you don't have one, if you're applying for the first time, it's going to take you longer because you need to go to get an interview. If you already have one, they're trying to waive that requirement that you show up for an interview. So it could take a while. I'd have to check the exact processing times for the different posts in Brazil. But I think that the last time I checked for E2s, for example, it took my client about 30 days after we submitted his E2 visa
Well,
application.
that's not long.
Yeah, it's not long. I know that student visas, for example, are not taking that long. I think what's taking a long time are tourist visas. And then the immigrant categories, it just depends on it depends on the embassy. It depends on I think Rio is the post that does the interviews for immigrant visas for most of my clients, and they're just slow. They're just slow.
Okay.
You just have to get in line. I always tell people that if you have an immigration case, you need to get in line because it's first come, first serve. And,
Mhm.
it's the time estimates are just that. They're estimates based on the number of employees the government has, the number of applicants that they're waiting to interview. So you need to get in line. You need to get in
Okay.
line, and that's it.
Okay. Um, Leo, if you want to ask a question, you can. I have other questions, but I think it'd be good for you to possibly ask something you're interested in.
Okay, I'd like to know something about the unskilled workers.
Mm-hmm.
What would you like to know?
Because we have a EB3 for skilled workers, and
Mhm.
I was told that we have also for unskilled workers.
Yeah. It's just here, it just means that EB3 can be for professionals, like if you have a bachelor's degree and you're doing a job that requires a bachelor's degree. Unskilled, I mean, I think everybody is skilled, so I don't like to say that people are unskilled. So if you're coming to the other jobs are if you don't require a degree. So degrees and no degrees. So if
Would
you
that be an EB3 also?
yes. So
Okay.
that could be your chef at a restaurant. It could be your warehouse worker. It could be a roofer. It could be
English teacher.
English teacher would be a skilled worker with a
Okay.
degree. If your profession requires a master's, then you're in the EB2 category. But if it only requires a bachelor's or less, or maybe no degree, then you are an EB3.
Okay. You have another question, Leo?
She told us about the some if you have a citizenship in Europe. How about Greece? Do you think Greece is in?
I think Greece is an E2 country. So
Uh-huh.
you have to check. I can check, but Greece, I believe, is an E2 treaty country. I've never done an E2 for somebody with Greek nationality, but it's not an issue because the legal requirements are the same. It's just the nationality that changes. I can check.
Yeah, Leo would be interested.
Yeah.
Okay, and then in regards to somebody that's Brazilian, and they go to the United States, they say, wow, this is so good. I want to stay here. I know I'm a visitor, but I don't care. I'm going to stay here. I'm going to work at McDonald's. I don't care where I'm going to work. I'm going to make it. I'm going to do it. And then they stay illegally. Can you help them?
It depends. It depends because now they are, if you accumulate unlawful time in the United States, then you can, basically kiss the employment-based options goodbye. You're not going to have that opportunity because
Well, they
immigration
could get married to somebody, right?
you can do it through family. In that
Okay.
case, if you're an adult, the only way that would be forgiven of your unlawful stay here in the United States and you're working without authorization is if you marry a U.S. citizen. But that marriage has to be a real marriage. It has to be a bona fide marriage. And there's, it can't be a marriage for your green card because if you get caught marrying just for the purpose of a green card, now you're going to be in deep trouble.
Yeah, now you're going to go to prison.
Well, you can be definitely found to have committed fraud, which would basically really jeopardize you from maybe getting a green card in the future by through a husband or a wife that you really love, because you committed fraud. So marriage fraud, nonetheless. And then it could put you in removal proceedings. It can bar you from the United States. So it's not the right thing to do. I mean, a lot of people come to the United States with tourist visas and they try to live here with a tourist visa. But the tourist visa, every visa has its intention. And the tourist visa is to come visit, hence the name tourist visa. So you can extend if you need to, because you need to maybe do something else, but it doesn't give you permission to live. And, it puts you in a difficult situation because you're not going to have any benefits. You're not going to have any rights. You're going to be living in fear, and you're going to be, you're not going to be able to get a driver's license. You're not going to be able to work for an employer. You're going to have to work, paying, in difficult places.
Under the table.
Yeah.
We say under the table, huh?
So it's not, it's not advisable.
Yes. Okay. I do have a neighbor, Leo. I don't know if the people in the audience, if anybody has any questions, they can put it in the chat. Is there a way for them to put a question in the chat? Leo?
Okay, I'm taking a look.
Maybe they could send some messages or some requests for more information. So I have a neighbor, and she's a nanny. She went through an agency, I think it was an American agency, to get a job working for a couple, for a family, to watch the children, to help the children, and so on. So it seems like that might be a reasonable way for somebody to get their way into the United States legally through, I think it's an employment-based option.
So that sounds like an au pair. Maybe that person was an au pair. Au pair is if you want to come to the United States to be an au pair, you need a J1 visa. And
that's different.
Yes. So J1 visas are exchange visitor visas, and I'll explain how that works. I don't do J1 visas unless they're waivers, which is like forgiveness of your J1, because J1s are usually done through an agency that does the petition. So the idea behind the J1 visa program is a cultural exchange where somebody comes to the United States, learn about the culture, learns about the systems of the United States, and typically they have to return to their home country for a period of 2 years before they can immigrate to the United States. So
yeah, well, this one's going to get married to an American guy.
So if she's going to get married now to an American citizen, she can get her green card through her spouse. But the J1 is just a temporary visa.
Okay.
She can come and work as an au pair. I think there's an age limit too. I think it's like 18 to 25 or 18 to 26. So you have to be within a certain age. And you come to, experience American culture. Most au pairs don't have to return home. They don't have that 2-year home country requirement, but other types of J1s often do. And they'll see on their J1 visa that it says it's subject to the 2-year home country requirement, which means that if they're going to be getting a green card later through their spouse or another way, they need a waiver of that J1 requirement of having them to go back. Otherwise, they have to go back for 2 years.
Okay, very good. And about how much are we talking for your services, more or less?
So it depends really on, what we're talking about. Oops, let's see. Okay, here I am. It just depends on what it is that a person is looking for,
Yeah,
how
and
many.
there's so many variations.
Yeah. So, but I can give you a rough idea. So, if you're getting a green card and you qualify for your green card through your spouse, or if you're a U.S. citizen and you want to give a green card to your parent, or maybe your minor child under 21, for I think typically in the industry you're looking at between $3,000 and maybe $4,000. For us, we charge $3,600. That's the attorney services, and it includes the petition and the green card process. There are government fees that are subject to change, and the government fees, they go all the way up to $2,000 totaling. Totaling, yeah. So you're looking at $535 for the petition. You're looking at 1,225 for a green card. But if you're in Brazil and doing the consular process, the government fees are less because you're applying for an immigrant visa, so it's much less. It's more economical that way.
Sure.
If you are looking for self petitions and under EB1 or EB2 categories, I know that the going rate here in Orlando, you're looking at anywhere between $11,000 to $16,000. So it's a lot of money. It's a big investment.
Uh-huh.
You're getting a green card. You're getting a green card through yourself. So it's a big investment. I've heard that there are some offices that charge up to like $25,000, which is, I think, pretty steep. But I think it would range between $11,000 to $16,000 in Orlando. Here in my firm, we charge $12,000 or $13,000, depending on the type of case. Then you do have your consular process, which is after this petition is approved, you have to go through the immigrant visa process to get your immigrant visa based on this approved petition. So that depends on how many people are in your family.
Mm-hmm.
And then the government fees for this is $700. Some of these petitions have what's called premium processing, that if you pay $2,500, you can get your case decided in 15 days. But you got to
Here in Brazil, we have a process called despachante. And these are like professional people who do everything for you, okay? Like if you need to get a visa interview, they set it up for you, okay? So they get money based on the fact that they're providing a service for you in the process of getting your interview done through the government, through the immigration or the embassy or whatever. So it's interesting because everybody's got their fingers in the money.
Well, the despachantes, I think they deal mostly with like student visas and tourist visas. When you're going through the immigrant visa process, it's different. You
Oh
have
yeah,
to
I've not talked to anybody about immigration visas. I've only talked to them about the regular visas.
Yeah, so that is just about filling out a form online, paying the fee, submitting a passport. But this is a much more intense process because now you're getting permanent residence in the U.S. and they're going to look at you with a lot bigger lens.
Mm-hmm.
So for these employment based, that requires an employer. It really depends. The process has many steps, and I would say that in total, you're looking at least $15,000, $15,000. It depends on the size of the foreign national's family, how many people are coming with them. So it's an expensive process. So which is why I'm very reluctant of those companies that offer to connect foreign nationals with employers. I've heard people have come to my office and say that they pay like $30,000 for this, and now they're just waiting. And so I find it very sketchy. I would only do an EB3 if an employer comes to me and say, hey, I want to petition this person. So TNs, it depends. If the person is outside of the United States, they don't necessarily need the attorney services. If the person is in the United States with a valid visa status, then it's going to depend on the size of their family members. But you're looking at about $2,500, $3,000, $4,000, depending on the size of your family member, not including government fees.
What about the last one down there that you talked about that a lot of Brazilians are kind of buying into you think it's E2?
The E2, yeah. So the E2, you're looking at $6,000 to $7,000. That's how much an attorney typically charges. And then the minimum investment for this, it ranges. It depends. There's no set amount under the law. It depends on the type of business you're doing. So I think I've said that I've done it for, $44,000, $65,000, $90,000, $750,000 investment. That's the money that you're going to inject in the U.S. economy to open your business. And then there's other costs associated with this, like you need a business plan, you need to the visa, the non-immigrant visa applications and things like that. So you're, $9,000 in total in services, attorney services, just to get your visa, not including your investment. And for the L1, you're looking at maybe $9,000 to $11,000, not including government fees and not including the business that the company is going to open here. EB5s, these are, the big, very big, expensive cases. Most attorneys charge, I think, between $23,000 and $26,000 for these, because it's a huge cases.
Yeah, that's a lot of money to put on the table.
Yeah.
A lot of money. So, okay, I just want to mention to the audience that it's good for you to take a photo of this page here, because this has Ingrid's phone numbers. It has her email. There, yeah, right there. It has her information. So if you want to contact her, which I suggest you do, and to start the negotiation, okay, start the process. Learn more, and then go forward if you're looking to go into the United States as an immigrant. This is a good way to go, by contacting a good lawyer, which I find you to be, Ingrid.
Thank you.
So, any questions from the audience, Leo?
No, that's okay.
Okay. You have any further questions?
Me?
No,
Leo.
nobody asked.
Okay. And what about you?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Well, I guess this concludes our time together, unless you have any final thing you want to say, Ingrid.
No, I would just say that for anybody who wants to come to the United States, to do it, the right way, because doing it the under the, behind the door, the secret way or the incorrect way could really hurt you in the future. And it's not going to give you what you're looking for, which is legal status. So it's really important, I think, to talk to an attorney, even if the attorney charges for the consultation, which I know I do. I charge $150 for the first initial hour. That hour is a huge investment on your case, because it can save you a lot of money down the road, even if you decide not to do anything. What you're paying for is for a professional with knowledge and expertise to give you the right legal advice, so you can make an educated decision and move forward accordingly, which is really, really important and really valuable. It's very important to have the right information and not go based on what friends, family, or whoever says anything to you, because your individual situation is very unique and it requires a unique individualized analysis and assessment, so you can get the best legal advice, so you can achieve your immigration goals. It's really important to invest in that in your process, and not try to cut corners in it. So do the initial consultation at least. And then, if maybe today you say, all right, the EB2 sounds like a good option for me, but I'm not quite there yet, at least doing an initial consultation with an attorney, you can learn about what you need to do to get you to, where you need to be for an EB2. Or working with an attorney is at least going to give you, a good idea of your chances of success, because remember, these things are discretionary. And you may choose to just apply to try. Some people really just want to try, and they are willing to invest to try and give it their best shot, knowing that the possibilities may not be, maybe 50-50. So it really depends on the person. So it's really important that you have that initial consultation so you can make an informed decision. Immigration is a slow, expensive process, so you want to do it right the first time.
Yes, for sure. And
Ingrid,
so, you
I
live
have a
in a
question.
very interesting place. No, go ahead, Leo. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah. No, I just want to know if you take college, if it's a good idea to take college and then get the green card. Or...
So people can come to the United States to study. That's with the student visa, the F1 visa. And a lot of people come to the US, they come to do a bachelor's degree. After you do your bachelor, before you finish your bachelor's degree, depending on the program that you're doing, you get a period of a year where you can work. So you can get practical training in your profession. If the employer likes your work, the employer can always request an H-1B visa for you so you can keep working. And then later on, they can petition you for your green card. I have a lot of friends from law school that came from other countries, and they came to the United States with student visas. And after they graduated, they were able to get petitioned by law firms to work as an H-1B status, and then eventually process for their green cards. So a lot of people do get green cards that way. It's just, it's a slow way. And, what people have to keep in mind is that student visas don't give you work authorization. So you have to come to the United States prepared, not to work. All you're going to do is study. You can only work if you have employment authorization. That is super, super important. You cannot work with tourist visa. You cannot work with student visas unless you have explicit work authorization.
Okay.
Do you work with the Canadian visa?
No, I don't do Canadian immigration, only US immigration.
Okay.
Okay.
So thank you. Thank you so much, Ingrid, for your time and your ideas and your information. Thank you very much. I think you've explained a lot of these. Yes, there are more visas available, like you were talking about the student visa, but you explained a lot of the basic visas that people would probably be interested to apply for. And that was very, very helpful. So we're going to have this on our YouTube channel. And there were many people who could not come for whatever reason. And so this is going to be available for them to watch and to listen, and they're going to see your information. So I hope that you get some business out of this time that you've spent with us tonight. And I just thank you again for everything you've done.
Thank you. My pleasure.
So thank you,
Ingrid.
Neil. Thank you
you.
very much for all that you did tonight too. And I guess we're done for tonight. Okay. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.